Hello, this is the presentation called Tailoring Your Resume. This is Amanda Shaw speaking. I am the Associate Director of Career Planning with Russell Sage College. So before we get into how to exactly tailor your resume, I'd like to go over the services that our office has to offer. So right now there are two ways that you can meet with us. The first way is through Handshake, which I will actually show in a minute. And then through Walk-in Wednesdays. Walk-in Wednesdays are every Wednesday from 12:30 to 4:30. There's no appointment needed. All you need to do is go to sage.edu/walk-ins, and it'll be a Google form. You'll fill that out. It will give you a Zoom link. You'll be able to join that Zoom room, and somebody will take you into a breakout room. Again, it's first come, first serve, no appointment needed. So if you do end up wanting to set up an actual appointment with us, you can do so on Handshake. And to either meet with us for Walk-in Wednesdays or on Handshake, you can talk to us about career exploration and some assessments that we have to help you with that. We can help you with resume writing and development, cover letter writing and development, job, internship, and volunteer opportunity search, interviewing tips, and then graduate school search and prep. So we can help with creating and drafting a statement of interest or any letter that you need to prepare for graduate school. We can also help with LinkedIn and networking assistance. So something that we only do in appointments and we cannot help with in Walk-in Wednesdays is a mock interview. This is a little bit of a longer process. It's about an hour to an hour and a half. We actually tailor the questions, make sure it's specific to the position that you are applying to. And we actually tailor the questions, pretend to be that employer, do some research, figure out what they would ask in an actual interview. And then we will conduct the interview as if it was a real thing. And after we do our practice interview, we'll go through each answer and give you some feedback and brainstorm ways that we can improve your answers. And a lot of our information can be found on our website, which is sage.edu/career. Now I'll show you what Handshake looks like. So Handshake has a lot of different purposes. So first and foremost, I want to talk about creating an appointment with us. So you would go over here to click on Career Center. And then you will scroll down a little, click on Appointments. And what's really great about Handshake is that you really get to have agency over when you meet with us and who you meet with. So you'll go through, select what year you are, why you want to meet with us, and then you'll be able to see when you can meet with us. So say you don't want to meet with us this week, you can meet with us the week after. You'll be able to see timeframes that you can meet with us and who you would be able to meet with, whether it's myself or my wonderful graduate assistants. You could click through, say you want to meet with Julia. You'll see that she has her Zoom room link here, and then you'll fill out why you want to meet with us. And then you'll hit request and it's automatically approved, and you'll get notified of that appointment in your email. So that's how you would make an appointment with us. And the other functions of Handshake, we'll actually review some of that today in terms of the job search, but you'll see that in a little bit. There's an employers tab, some community exploration that you can do, career paths, and then events as well. So an event like this is actually in Handshake, and any events that we have other than this are going to be in that Handshake or in that database as well. You'll be able to see all of the events here. And there's also events that we have through other outside employers, other organizations. This is a national database, so there could be organizations from all across the United States posting information sessions in here that you can attend. So then getting into tailoring your resume and what that looks like, you really want to focus on these NACE career competencies. So NACE is an organization that is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a professional development organization for career offices across the United States. And they did a survey a few years ago of over 400 employers. And they asked, what are the top skills that you're looking for in students and new graduates? And these are the 9 skills that employers came up with. And this is across all industries, across all different sizes of organizations. So these are the 9 skills that all of these employers really tried to identify and highlight as being skills that they want new hires and students to have. And the reason we showcase this is because these are competencies that you definitely want to try to mention on your resume and definitely mention in an interview going forward. And we also mention this because there's a difference of opinion in the preparedness across these learning outcomes when you compare the students and the new graduates and the employers. So you can see here on this slide that there is a little bit of a difference between the understanding of those skill sets. Most notably, you can see for in communication, students say, oh, absolutely, we think that we're well prepared in this area. And the employers are saying, not so much. So it's really important that all of our students keep this in mind and find ways that they can demonstrate these skills so that when it comes time to apply to a position, to write your resume, to write a cover letter, to interview, you're talking about these skills in a meaningful way and in a professional way that leverages these skills so that an employer can see that you do have these skill sets. And you can see here, there's some additional differences of opinion. So when you're thinking of these career competencies, it also lines up with what skills an employer wants to see on the resume. So this is also from NACE. They did a survey of employers saying, what do you want to see? What attributes do you want to see on these resumes? This is the breakdown. So the vast majority of employers want to see those written communication skills, and the resume is a perfect example of how you do that. They also want to see problem-solving skills, team skills, taking initiative, and all these other skills that are listed. So these are definitely attributes you want to keep in mind when tailoring your resume for a position. So here's an example of how you could connect the teamwork and collaboration competency that employers are looking for. So you can see a little bit of a definition up above, and then ways that you can incorporate this competency in your resume, in an interview, or in a cover letter. So why tailor your resume? What makes a tailored resume different and stand out to an employer? And this is really important. So you'll be able to see that an employer really only looks at your resume for about 7 to 10 seconds. Some will say 6 seconds. And I know that's kind of alarming to hear, but it's really important for you all to understand that, because you want to make sure that the most important information is on the top third of your resume. And you want to make sure that it's organized appropriately so that they're seeing the correct information. And that's why we recommend that you tailor it. So a resume that you're preparing for graduate school will look a little bit different than a resume than you would prepare for an internship for a full-time job, because they're all going to highlight different skill sets and different competencies. So it's really, really important that you spend the time with us and with yourself, making sure that your resume is tailored to the specific position that you're applying to, and make sure that your most important information is easily readable and is on that top third of your resume. And another reason that we want to tailor your resume is because of applicant tracking system. So from here on out, I'll refer to that as an ATS. So an ATS, this isn't a new thing. This has been around since 2008. Anytime that you've applied to a position and you've had to upload your resume and then fill in all of your past work experience, that's an applicant tracking system, right? So this ATS helps manage your resume, cover letter, all the application materials that you need, and same for all the other applicants, so that an employer can have that in an organized database. Now, there are some that are very sophisticated and some that are not super sophisticated, but still are really important to understand. So when you put your information into an applicant tracking system, it's already marking whether you have certain required characteristics. So if you've ever applied to a position and it says, hey, you need to have 2 to 3 years of working experience in customer service, and you need to have your bachelor's degree. If you do not have those two qualifications and you have not demonstrated that you have those two skills or qualifications, that's going to put a mark next to your application saying, hey, just letting you know, to the employer, this person doesn't have the minimum qualifications that you're looking for. So even the ones that aren't super sophisticated are kind of managing your resume. But more and more, these employers are using applicant tracking systems that have artificial intelligence. And this matters for a few different reasons. So before I tell you why it matters that they're using artificial intelligence, it's important to note that about 98% of Fortune 500 companies are using an applicant tracking system of some sort. There is about 5 or 6 major varieties of an applicant tracking system. And then about 66% of large companies and 35% of small organizations rely on some sort of applicant tracking system or recruitment software. So they're very common. They've been around, like I said, since 2008. So they've been around for a while, but they're becoming more and more sophisticated. And the ones that use artificial intelligence are also becoming more affordable and therefore more common. So these organizations are able to use this AI to read their resumes and look for keywords and look for errors and key competencies and all the relevant information that would either say, yes, this is a great resume, or no, this is not a great resume. And we really want to hit home that templates are not very likely to run through an applicant tracking system. And that's because computers and AI read left to right. So they cannot make that intuitive connection that a human can. So for example, if you have a resume template, often, so ones from the internet will often have columns on the left side or on the right side. So for a computer, it's going to read left to right. It's not going to recognize that there's a column. And when it reads left from right, and it starts blending together the information in those columns into the main text that you have, it's going to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. We don't want to put this resume forward. So we just always recommend starting fresh from a blank Word document. And that's really important that you start fresh from that blank document so you're not using a template because of the errors that happen when it runs through an ATS. So when you're also thinking of a resume, whether you think it's going to run through an ATS or not, it is still important to pay attention to the job description. So whether this is for an internship or a full-time position or a part-time position, you want to make sure that you read the job description and pay attention and emphasize the keywords and qualifications that you have that are mentioned in that job description. You want to showcase your fit for the position. So you're applying obviously because you're interested in the position, but you have to demonstrate why you belong there and how your skills fit the qualifications and the responsibilities of that position. And something to know, your resume is never truly complete. It's a living document that's going to change with every position that you hold. You should constantly be updating it and adding to it. Because your job isn't going to necessarily stay exactly the same day in and day out. If you get more responsibility at your position, you want to include that on there. If you join a committee or you take on a new project, you'll want to add that too. So it's a living, breathing document. It's going to continue to change as you change and grow through your career. And it's also important to note that a tailored resume leads to a more successful job application process. So you're way more likely to get through to an interview if you have a tailored resume. It is so obvious to an employer if it's a generic resume that's just being sent out to everybody with an available job. So really take that time to tailor that resume, and we'll walk through steps on how to do that because that will make you successful in your job search. So now when we're thinking about how exactly to tailor your resume, the first step is to really read and try to understand the position that you're applying for. So we recommend going through and highlighting the job description. See if there are any keywords. What words are repeated? Is there anything unusual that catches your eye? Maybe it's a skill set that you have that you didn't know that they would need. And what are the key skills that they're looking for? So now we're going to take a look at some positions that we have in Handshake. It's unfortunately not linking directly to that position, but there we go. Okay, so when we're looking at this position, you'll be able to see here's a role description, and looking through this, right? So you want to read through the role description and then the key responsibilities. Okay, so even just looking at this section, so we're looking for direct support professionals who are good communicators, right? So you want to make sure you demonstrate that somehow in your resume, reliable in their work, flexible, right? Fast-paced, changing work environments, team, caring and ensuring safety. So if you've ever worked in a restaurant, for example, that's something that immediately pops into my mind of, well, it may not be directly relevant to the position that you're applying for. It's definitely fast-paced and a changing work environment. You know, you have to be reliable. You have to work as part of a team, right? It's not just the waitress or the waiter that's serving the food, who's cooking the food, who's delivering the food, who's, you know, preparing it. All these different aspects go into it. So you really just want to go through and see exactly what keywords they're looking for. And then we can do the same for this remote summer reading position. Oops. Oh, not a full-time job. So again, seeing here, full description, successful teachers have so strong reading skills, hardworking, strong communication and organizational skills, comfortable and confident with technology, patient, supportive. So you really want to put these keywords into your resume. And we'll kind of highlight how you do that in a few slides. And you want to make sure that you're making connection to the most relevant skills that you have. So find the experience with the skills that would make them most excited about your application, and then make sure you rearrange your resume so that that information is at the top. So if we think about the example that I gave before for the direct professional or direct support professional, so that's somebody who needed to work in a fast-paced environment, who needed to be a good communicator and a good team player. Again, to use the example of a waitress or a waiter, if that is your main position that you've had for a couple of years and you think that's relevant, move that to the top and demonstrate the connections by putting in those keywords and making sure that you're leveraging the skill set that you have in those bullet points. So again, it may not be your most current position, but maybe it's something specialized that you've done, so it's certification or part-time work that you do. And again, it doesn't have to be the most recent. And you can do that by organizing it by saying relevant work experience and highlighting that position. Because when you say relevant work experience to an employer, they're going to say, ah, this must be related to the position that they're applying for. And then you can do additional work experience and have that. So it doesn't have to be in that reverse chronological order of most recent first. You want to make sure it's most relevant first, and then you can do the rest of your resume. So another tip that you can do is revamp your bullet points, even for less related experiences, right? So don't just ignore every other position that you have on your resume. You want to try to tailor those too. So you can pull out bits of information from the job description that you're looking at and make sure that you're, again, searching for those keywords and kind of sprinkling those throughout your resume. I know it's important that you don't copy and paste from the job description into your resume. Again, thinking of the applicant tracking system, if it's a sophisticated database, it's going to say, hey, wait, I recognize these exact words. I put this sentence down in this job description, and it's not going to like that, right? So be careful with what you add in, but those keywords are going to be, you can absolutely plug those in, but you don't want to copy a whole entire sentence or bullet point in the job description and put that into your resume without rewording it. It's the same thing that you would do for papers, right? You don't want to plagiarize. You're obviously not necessarily plagiarizing when you copy and paste from a job description, but it's still not something you should really do. So again, look for the job description for those keywords. Or are they looking for strong communication skills, that ability to work in a team, and those other soft skills, right? So teamwork, communication, people skills, those are all soft skills. Those are probably going to be listed in a job description as well. All right, so now we can look specifically again on how you can kind of go through. This is an internship position that's on Handshake, and it is linked here. So the minimum qualifications listed for this position, you'll see here. So marketing, computer software, social media platforms, latest marketing trends and techniques, communication skills, passion, multitasking. So these are the skills that you absolutely want to put in there. So whether this comes from your in-class experience, you can absolutely highlight that too. You can highlight this from part-time jobs, other internships that you may have, volunteer opportunities, full-time jobs, right? If you're an athlete, you can demonstrate communication skills and team skills, right? Same with multitasking. If you're a student and you have a job or multiple jobs, that's multitasking, right? So there's different ways that you can really say, I have these skills and here is how I have these skills and this is how I've developed them. So then a really good way to check to see if it's clear why you're applying to the position is having a friend read through your resume. Have them read your resume and see if they can explain why you're interested in the position or why you're fit, right? Don't say, here are all the reasons that I think I'm a good candidate, and then make them read the resume. Have them read the resume and see if that's clear. If it's not clear, you've got some work to do, right? So if your friend can't figure it out, how could an employer figure that out, right? So come to us too. We can help you with that. That's our job, to help you with that. We love helping with tailoring resumes. And so you can have your friends help, you can have us help, get as many eyes as you can on that resume to make sure it's clear why you are hired or you're applying to that position and why you should be hired. So getting into the basics of resume writing. So some quick tips. So it should only be one page. If you're an undergrad, unless you're a non-traditional student who's had a career before coming back to school, it should only be one page. And even still, if it goes on to 2 pages, it has to be 2 full pages. And you have to know that an employer in all likelihood is not going to see your second page until you go in for the interview. So I have a 2-page resume. I have a master's degree. I've been working in the field for 10 years. I have, internships and different job opportunities. But I know that if an employer is looking at my resume, if I were to apply to a position, or when I did apply to this position at Russell Sage, that they're really only going to look at the first page, and that should stand alone. So the first page has to have all of the relevant information if you do have 2 pages. But that being said, if you have 1 page, again, you want that the most important experiences that you need to highlight are going to be on that top third. You really want to make sure that it should have at least the 3 sections that are listed. So education, you're spending a lot of time, money, and effort getting this degree. You want to put it down. You want to put your work experience. So what have you done and how have you gained these skills? And then you can do a skill section too. And this is important to note that it's a hard skills. So it's going to be computer skills. It's going to be language skills and not soft skills. So it's really common for people to put soft skills on their resume in high school. We don't want those listed on here. And again, for all the reasons that I said before, please don't use a template. So when thinking about what to actually include on your resume, you want to be wary of internet samples. You can absolutely use internet samples to help inspire you with bullet points. But again, you don't want to use that template like I have listed on the right. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of errors, or there's a lot of things that a computer won't be able to read. If you look at the skill section to the right, there's 5 dots saying that this person has a high level of skill in this. That actually doesn't mean anything, right? That's not something that everybody will necessarily understand. So don't use a template. Be wary of internet samples. You want to tailor your resume to every position that you apply to. We recommend having something called a running resume. It's a list of everything that you've ever done. There are positions from 5-10 years ago on there that maybe you're not going to ever include on a resume again. But you just want to put it on there so you don't have to recreate the wheel. So if you do go onto that second page, you don't want to have to think, what were my bullet points that I listed for my position that I held 6 years ago. So just keep a running resume. Don't worry about the format. Don't worry about the length. You can just copy and paste from that and create a new tailored resume for every position that you are applying for. Again, you want to use that job description to highlight the important skills and duties that you should highlight. You can tailor the header. So instead of just saying experience or work experience, you can say clinical or relevant experience. That experience is a really good keyword that those applicant tracking systems are going to look for. So you want to have experience listed. The visual appeal and the content matter, be concise and error-free. And then again, like I said before, it should be 1 page. So we do have a resume writing guide. We actually have 2. So they're based off of the majors on each campus. It is a 20-page document. But this is intentional, right? We really want to empower our students to be able to edit their resume on their own. So you'll see here what should be on your resume, what experiences and skills to list, how to list some section information and details. And then we have some more examples on looking at the key components of a resume, writing action-oriented statements. So I'll touch on this in a second. And then we have some formatting tips. This is important as well. And we have sample resumes. So all these sample resumes are very interchangeable. If you see this and you're not a psychology major and you like this format, you can absolutely use this. These are all templates that we have created. You cannot download them. We've just edited them ourselves and formatted them ourselves. So if you're looking through here and you really like one of these formats, go ahead and use it. And we also put a lot of different positions on here for our students to use. So whether that's a cashier position, a waitress, a resident assistant, a patient care tech, doing some job observation hours, whatever it may be, we hopefully have something similar enough that can inspire you to get those bullet points and make sure that they are effective and that you're communicating professionally. So again, that's on our website. If you just go to sage.edu/career, you'll be able to see that we have multiple career guides under our resources for students page. So again, just trying to hit home, it's important that you list education and your most closely related experiences. So again, it's that top third of your resume. And then the possible sections on your resume really depend on what you've accomplished. So it could be additional work experience, it could be professional development, community involvement, or volunteer service, campus involvement, those skills sections that I was talking about, certifications, relevant coursework, all that good stuff. So here is another example of how you can tailor. And I wanted to make sure that we made it clear how you can connect the job description to something that you might be able to include on your resume. So if you were somebody who was looking at this position, you said, hey, this sounds really interesting. This is just an example to kind of split it between two different positions or two different ways that you could leverage it. So first is through a position, right? So if you're the events coordinator for the student government, here's how you could kind of plug in those keywords, right? So you'll see here, create educational materials, marketing events, right? So marketing materials, infographics, posters, flyers, right? Social media posts, promote. So you're really just using the language that they use in the job description to showcase that you have those skills. And you can also put that down here where it says student interest in education, events, nutrition, right? If you're a nutrition science major, you put that there. You can put some relevant coursework as they pertain to that position too. So you could do it whether you're highlighting your degree or some of the positions that you have had. Those are just two ways that you can help make those connections. So it's also important for you to pay attention to these action statements or the bulleted statements. So good use of the action verbs on a resume can actually make a huge difference in securing an interview. So instead of using these helping phrases like responsible for, you really just want to try to get to the heart of what you're trying to say and the skill that you're using. So it's going to help actually highlight your skills and experience and make your resume quicker to read. So again, if we're thinking of those 7 to 10 seconds, you want to make the most of those 7 to 10 seconds. And you can do that by really paying attention to these action verbs. And it can improve reviewer rankings of your resume by 20 to 30%, depending on the industry. So if somebody's looking through your resume and they say, wow, this person really seems to understand the skills that are needed for this position, and you demonstrate that with your action verbs that you're starting off these bulleted statements with, that's great. That'll put you to the top of the pile. And again, you want to tailor these verbs for every position that you apply. We're repeating that very intentionally because it really is every single position that you're applying for should have a tailored resume. And again, avoid using this passive language and the buzzwords, the meaningless terminology that tends to go on resumes, right? So instead of saying, this was done by me, that's a passive voice. You're saying, hey, I did this. That's an active voice. You really want to highlight that and use that active language. So I said that we were going to touch on the bullet points a little bit here. So you can see on page 5 of our resume writing guide, which is right here, that you really want to get to the heart of the action. So what action, what was the task, what was the result, right? There's a big difference between just saying, hey, I raised money. Okay, how do you make that better? You created and promoted. Okay, so you create and promote. What do? Create flyers that promote the dance ensemble and encourage getting involved in the organization. Okay, right? You really want to try to add information to these bullet points so that you're showcasing any skills that you have. You can quantify, that's great, right? So in this example here, design craft activities that engage and educate 8 to 12 children in an effort to enhance peer interaction and develop motor skills. That's a really great bullet point. An employer is going to look at that and say, oh, I know who they were working with. I know how many people they can work with in a group. I know why they were designing these activities. That's great, right? So any time that you can kind of use this to brainstorm how to improve your bullet points, we highly recommend using this page. So here are some great verbs that you can use. You can see that they're divided into if you improved or increased something, if you facilitated or managed something, if you started a project for day-to-day activities, if you achieved something. These are all great verbs that you can use. Something to note, if it's a present job that you're still doing, present tense verbs. If it's a past job, past tense verbs. And then some phrases to avoid. So these are those helping phrases that I was talking about, those buzzwords like self-starter, detail-oriented, team player. And this can sound contradictory, right? I know that I've been saying you want to include these team players, the fact that you can work as part of a team, but you don't want to say, I'm a team player. You want to demonstrate that. So, work as part of a team to accomplish a fundraising goal for our club of over $4,000. So instead of saying, hey, I'm a team player, saying, this is how I worked as part of a team. So here are some other phrases and words that you want to avoid. And then things that you want to leave out of your resume. At the end, it's common for people to write references available upon request. We always say an employer will ask if they want references. You don't need to put that on your resume. Again, skills that highlight skills section that highlights soft skills, you don't need to include that on there. Employers want to see those demonstrated in the positions. So you want to showcase how you are how you can communicate effectively. They don't want you to just say, I communicate effectively. And then just like you would do for a paper, you don't want to put acronyms without spelling it out first. So just like I did with the applicant tracking system, I said, this is what it is. And then I said, I'll refer to it as an ATS from now on. So if there are any questions, you're welcome to email us. Our contact information is on the next slide, but ultimately, I hope what you see from this is that you should make an appointment with us. We're accessible year-round, so we are here over the summer as well. So if you find yourself reviewing your resume and seeing that it needs an update, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. And here's our contact information. So my email is listed here, and then you'll see that our general email addresses are here. A link to set up an appointment with Handshake. Again, it's just sage.joinhandshake.com. or walk-in Wednesdays, which do not happen over the summer, but we always take appointments over the summer as well. So we hope to see you soon. And please follow us on social media, on Instagram at Sage Career Planning, and on Facebook at Sage Office of Career Planning. Thank you and have a wonderful day.